Have you taken it down? Right. So now we have website security. So how many of you feel like you have the safest websites out there? Okay. Okay. Clearly, many of you don't feel that. So this is very useful. We have some best practices that we can go through to help make your website more secure. So what's the one thing that, let's say you've updated your systems, you have like a great firewall, you have very strong password, 100 character password and everything. But what's the one thing that can still help make you lose your account information? Anyone? No, it's like you're using HTTPS also. Hacking? Okay, no, you're not being hacked. It's phishing.
Yes.
Right? So it's phishing. So how do you prevent phishing? You have to enable two-step verification. So your password is just not enough in these days. You have to enable additional verification layer, like two-step verification for any account, whether it's your CMS account, whether it's your Facebook, Twitter, social media login, whether it's your hosting service provider or your email, Gmail, Hotmail, whatever it be.
Can I ask a quick question? So
Yes.
I have multiple users on my site, right? And who can log in. Does each one have to have this to keep my site?
Okay, so one that may be very we are talking about in perspective of you, like your personal accounts, not your website accounts. Ideally, that would be good too, but that's a lot more expensive, and so for smaller sites maybe it's not feasible. But as a first step, make sure you protect your website and it not being hacked or compromised by enabling two-step verification for all your accounts, right? So because phishing, like you would think I would never get phished, but the statistics show that even for people who are very savvy with the internet, 45% of them get phished, and of those 45%, 20%, 1/5 of them, like their accounts get compromised in 30 minutes.
But many a times we get a mail notification or an SMS after two SMS notification that our accounts is being trying to be.
Yeah, but like
code we receive the code, but we have not shared our IDs to anybody that time or passcode to anybody. Then how come we are getting that codes?
Very unintentionally, you could have seen like a regular website. You would have thought you were just logging into your Facebook account.
Right.
But you would have given your username and password to someone else.
Okay.
Because that's how phishing was. So they act as if they're the Facebook page, and you enter your username and password, and they steal your account information. And before you can, when you get the message saying your account is being compromised, your Facebook account is being compromised, so in 30 minutes, 1/5 of the accounts are already the information is accessed and your account information is already compromised in 30 minutes. So by the time you see, and sometimes you may not always be able to act fast, right? Sometimes you will be sleeping when you get that message. So in 30 minutes, if your account information is already compromised, even after you fix it, your data is already stolen.
Then after putting a protection like a
if you
verification also, if after we are getting a code, then how can we
if you use two-step verification, that doesn't happen.
No, recently this thing has
your
been
point is
happened.
basically you have enabled two-step verification.
Yeah.
And you're getting SMSs with the OTPs.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Right. So that means someone is trying to enter your account. Enter into your account.
Yeah.
Yes. And then they have to use the OTP which you are receiving.
Yeah.
That clearly means someone is trying to hack into your account. But they are unable to because you are getting that OTP, right? So probably you may want to talk to your hosting provider and see, okay, where this is coming from, check your logs and things like that. If this is happening very often, you may even file a police complaint and then follow up on that. So it is that somebody is trying to hack into your account, that is why you're receiving.
Yeah.
But if you
this recently happened with someone very close to me. His Gmail account was being tried to be hacked after two-step verification.
Possible someone is trying to do that, right? That is why you may be getting those.
But if you do add two-step verification, they will try to access your account, but they can't because you won't share that code with them,
and
right?
When we in our Google account, we can check who has tried to we check who has logged
Yes.
in But if this step, if somebody try to do this way, will not be able to come to.
So in your Google account activity, you can find who has which systems your account has been accessed through.
Try to access through.
No, access through. You can
Access.
actually find which systems your account has been accessed through. And if there was something suspicious, you can actually flag it. Okay. Okay. So just a visual representation. So even if your password is compromised, there's also another that OTP that you get that's blocking others from accessing your account, right? So this is how it works. So you just enter your username and password, and you also have a physical device with you, which someone else, even through phishing, they can't get this information, right? Okay. So to summarize, two-step verification is something that you know, mostly your password. It's something that you physically have. Mostly it's your phone and you get a code through SMS, but sometimes it could also be a physical security key of some. Okay, very quickly, keep systems up to date. So this is very obvious, right? A lot of systems get hacked, and whoever manages the system, they fix it by updating the system. But users of that system may not be updating because either it's cumbersome, it's expensive, or whatever may be the reason. But if you don't update your system, the same vulnerability which was already fixed, the hackers can use that to access your system again, which is bad. So long term, updating your systems, even if it's expensive in the middle term, it's good for you in the long term. So again, we have enabling HTTPS on all websites. So is all websites necessary? Let's say you have just a simple blog, and there's no login, no form, nothing. You just have not necessary.
It is.
It is. Why is it?
Because it gives Google confirmation that there is safe content.
So HTTPS is not really for Google. So how HTTPS works is HTTP. HTTP is you basically sending some information to the browser. You're making a request. So you have a connection with the browser, right? With the website, right? So you pass some information to him, you get back some information from them. So HTTPS secures that information. So when you use HTTPS, all of that information is encrypted. So if it's not encrypted, someone in the middle can access your account, and can access your information, and they can route your information through them so that they can modify your information however they want, right? But if you use HTTPS, that is not possible. So your users, if you have HTTPS enabled on your website, your users, whenever they're interacting with you, their information is secure. And they're confident that my information is not being either compromised or it's being meddled with. Yes. So like even for your website, even for a regular website, if someone's, if you're visiting 7 to 8 blogs, you're clicking different links, all of that information, it's still like, it's your private information. You don't want it to be shared with some hacker, right? So if you use HTTPS, that whichever link you click, that will only go to the website that you're interacting with. That information won't be shared with someone in the middle.
But Ashish, in 2016, I do personally think that HTTPS is for security only. But in 2016, there was one update from the Google Webmaster Forum
Yes.
that it is a ranking
Yes,
signal.
it is a ranking signal. So because it's very important, because we recognize that security is very important and users' privacy is very important, we made HTTPS a ranking signal.
But for the pages which required login, but the pages which does not require any login or personal data was shared, that website also moved to HTTPS just because of this update. It is a ranking signal.
Okay,
And also Google started giving that triangle wala notification. This is not a secure web.
Okay, so JFA, correct me if I'm wrong, but so HTTPS is a ranking signal for all websites. But if you have form input or login, previously we used to show not secure if you had login information or form input or anything like that. But now, regardless of whether you have login information or input, we're still showing not secure.
So your comment is basically that a lot of people implemented this HTTPS just because it was made into a ranking signal.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah, I think there are a bunch of things to remember about HTTPS. I'll go up there. The key about HTTPS is that it's protecting users and allowing them to navigate privately. Right? An HTTP session is a conversation between a browser and a server. A URL communicates what information somebody's looking at. If I'm looking for a book in a library and the URL says this is the title of the book, that communicates I'm interested in this book. Now, if that is not encrypted, that request is not encrypted, then anybody in between the user's browser and the web server can see the fact that I'm requesting that book. So when we think about it from a perspective of privacy, we're allowing somebody to see the content that somebody else is looking at. HTTPS encrypts the transaction between the browser and the server at the lowest level. So the only thing you can see is that this IP address is opening up a session with this IP address. No other information. So if we go into what HTTPS is about and why HTTPS is important, it's not just because somebody's sending passwords or credit card information. That's super important. That is really critical. That's like financial information, that's login information. But there's other stuff that's also important to protect. And it's not just the request. The response has content as well.
Yes.
And if I'm in the middle and that content is not encrypted, I can modify it. And the recipient has no way of knowing. If I have access to, I mean, this happens every time you log into a Wi-Fi signal that's free. That captive portal is precisely doing that, saying, you open up an HTTPS session to an HTTP session to apple.com, and I'm intercepting that and I'm going to inject a different page. Right? So think about that from the perspective of a user. Think about that from the perspective of the privacy of their communication with you. And if we think about the fact that if you're having a private conversation with somebody, that's just your business. It's nobody else's. So when we talk about HTTPS and why we think it's important, not just for login pages, but across the board, first of all, it's protecting the integrity of the data transfer. It's also protecting the privacy of the user, of the browsers, as well as the fact that it just makes for a safer internet. It's not more expensive. It's not slower. It used to be, but that's 15-year-old knowledge. Nowadays, there's not really a good reason not to do it.
So one disadvantage which we are facing because of moving website to HTTPS is that earlier we used to get the most searched keywords in the Google Analytics. Now we are unable to get that data. Keywords, we are unable to find which are the keywords which people usually search for our website.
The
And
Search
we
Console will
used to
give you
get
that.
GA. Earlier we were getting it from GA and Omniture also, but now because of this we are not.
Yeah, you're able to get Search Console data from Search Console on what searches your pages appeared, and whether or not they generate a CTR.
Search analytics.
Mhm, yeah.
All right. So yeah. So now that we've all decided to implement HTTPS, so let's look at another best practice, which is verifying your site in Search Console. So we've already gone through how to verify your site in Search Console, but why you have to verify as per regarding security is that, so this is the only way Google directly tells the site owner that your site is hacked or there's malware in your site. So this is the only tool that directly gives a message to the site owner that we found bad URLs on your website. It could be harming your users or it could be compromising your users' information. So please fix this. So verifying Search Console is very, very important. Like regarding security, this is one of the first things I would do, right? So you already heard how to verify your Search Console, so please do it. And finally, backing up your site. So we've all looked at certain ways to prevent attacks, to make sure nobody attacks your site. You can protect your information. But on the off chance that your information is compromised, your website is attacked, if you back up your website, this is one of the simplest ways to preserve the original clean version of your website. So simply by setting up automatic backups, you're preventing a lot of headache for yourself by, when someone hacks your website, you can just quarantine the website and put the backup online so that users don't have any issues. They get a clean website, and you can also work on fixing the problem with your website. All right. So with that, my session ends, and because we've already had some questions during the session, maybe we'll skip to the next session. All right? Great, thank you. So now we have Himani Dudat, who's a data analyst from the Trust and Safety team, who will be talking to you all about mobile-friendly websites. Welcome.
I just want to know this whole structured data that
Yes.
we discussed.
Yes.
Is there anything specifically in the context of language cognition? I mean, is it any different or is it absolutely the same thing?
So I don't think it differs from language to language. So because the content type for structured data differs by the type of content that you publish, and that content, whichever language you publish in, it shouldn't matter.
So it's already set up to pick that.
I mean, so structured data, it's not, again, like, so Google, structured data is slightly different from what features are supported on Google search. So when you implement structured data, Google will use that information to show them in different search features, like we've seen, right? We've seen multiple search features. Google will use that to show in those search features. But another use for structured data is, even if we don't support a content type, it will still help us understand your website a lot better. So adding structured data, you should add it regardless of whether it supports the content type or not. But in terms of a language, there are some languages that may not be supported, as far as I understand. So for certain features, some languages are not supported. So I just check that before. For example, jobs, you may not see, when you type something in Kannada, you may not see the job search feature showing up. So, thank you.
Okay. Welcome again to Google Search Conference in Bangalore, and I'm really glad to be here and talking to you all. So in this session, we are going to talk about mobile-friendly websites and accelerated mobile pages. But before going into that, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Himani Dudat. I'm working at Google for like last 1.5 years in trust and safety. So there we fight fraud and abuse across various platforms of Google and keep users safe. I'm working with search outreach team for like last 6 months, and today I'm going to talk about mobile friendly websites. So we all know that technology is advancing at tremendous pace, right? And as technology advances, behavior of users also keep changing, right? So what users were expecting on digital platforms, say even a year ago, is very much different from what they would expect now, right? So today if we see anywhere, what we see in everyone's hand? Mobile phones. Exactly, smartphones, right? So in this mobile-centric world, it is very important for webmasters or content creators to be relevant and to be useful to the users on all the platforms. So that is why we are having one small session dedicated to mobile-friendly websites today. And we'll be talking about these 3 points. Going mobile, like why having a mobile-friendly website is important and how to get there. Then secondly, we'll talk about best practices for a mobile-friendly website. And the last part, we are going to cover our accelerated mobile pages. Okay? Let's start? Yes. Okay. So going mobile. Can you guys guess how many of the users on the internet use internet from their mobiles, especially for Indian language content?
80%.
80 to 90.
Okay. Good guesstimates. Because almost 99% of Indian language users access internet through their mobile devices.
My God.
Right? So, what does it mean for you?
98%.
It means that your website is going to be viewed on mobile devices more than any other devices. This is why having a mobile website is really critical, especially in a market like India, where we see this much user chunks using mobile internet.
But this is Indian language access. Okay.
So,
English is included into this? Indian languages?
Sorry?
English is included into it?
No, I think Indian languages is
The
specific to
regional languages.
India. And yeah. So
Do we have data for at large Indian traffic?
I think data will be available, but I'm not sure.
Oh,
When you say traffic, do you mean like traffic that are on the internet?
Or no, I mean the split between mobile and desktop in Indian traffic
Yeah,
generally.
if you,
Yeah.
This is for Indian languages.
yeah, but
I'm talking about generic.
Yeah, it is.
Actually, that is what we are going to talk about in the next slide. But this data is still 2016, but I'm sure the recent data, 2017 data will also be available. So when we say 99% of the users, what are the total internet users in India? So if we see from like 2012, the total number of internet users in India is constantly growing. But if we see at the graph, that is a blue line, which is mobile internet, that is where the growth is actually coming from. So here if we see, especially after December 14, there is a huge steep in mobile internet users. So what it means is that more and more people are coming online for the first time, and that those are coming using mobile devices. So if your website is not giving good customer experience to the users coming on mobiles, then you are losing on this huge group of users, right? So now since we have seen that how many users actually use internet from mobile, we also know that good customer experience always keeps users engaged with their sites. User has always been a priority of Google, and that is why mobile friendliness is also a ranking signal for mobile searches now. So if your website is not mobile friendly, it will not only turn away your users from the website because they are not getting a good experience, but also it can hurt your rankings in mobile searches, specific to mobile searches. I think this change was made in 2016, like it was included as a ranking signal for mobile searches. So it is extremely important to have a mobile friendly website. And now I would like to ask, how about your side? How many of you have actually gone ahead and tested mobile friendliness of your website? Okay, lot of them, and that's really good. Which tool did you use?
Test my site.
So many.
Yeah, exactly. So there is this mobile friendly test tool available from Google. Please note down the URL also, g.co/mobile friendly. So you can just insert your URL here. You can copy paste your URL here, and when you run test, it gives you a binary result of if your mobile page is mobile friendly or not. It will show, and along with that, it will also show some of the critical issues that your page has. Now this is about testing one URL. What if you want to have a comprehensive view of your website, like how good my website is when it comes to mobile? Then there is another tool available, mobile usability report. This is under Search Console. So I think in couple of sessions we have covered how the Search Console works. So if you have your site added and verified in Search Console, then you can just go there in the mobile usability, and there you can get the comprehensive analysis of how mobile friendly your website is. So as you can see here, it can also pinpoint you to the specific issues like content is wider than screen or viewport is not set, and along with the pages. So once it pinpoints you to the issues, it is very easy for you to go to those pages and rectify it and improve your site, especially for mobile friendliness. So this was about the tools. Now if you already have tested your site and it is mobile friendly, then great. If not, and you want to create a mobile friendly website, then what are the ways? So there are 3 configurations available to build a mobile friendly website. First is responsive web design, second is dynamic serving, and third is separate URLs. So in responsive web design, what happens is your URL stays the same for your desktop version as well as the mobile version. So if your site is say example.com, then it will stay example.com for both the versions. And HTML content also stays the same. So you will have just one content that will be rendered on mobile as well as web. What changes is the way that content is rendered. So according to the screen sizes, the data will be rendered according to the screen sizes. That is what the responsive web design is. Now coming to the dynamic serving, here also URL stays the same. Example.com will be example.com, but HTML content will be different. So the content that is for desktop will be different from HTML content that is for mobile website. And when we talk about separate URLs, our URLs will also be different. So say desktop site can be example.com and mobile site will be m.example.com. And at the same time, obviously the HTML contents on both the websites will also differ. Now we'll go into the details of each of these and see what are the pros and cons of each of these. So starting with responsive web design, as I said, we have just one URL, one content. So it is very easy to maintain. And another advantage is there is no problem of redirects. We'll talk about redirects in coming section also, but because of all these reasons, it becomes very easy to maintain your site by giving good user experience on mobile as well as desktop versions. But at the same time, it may not fit all the strategies. Now to give some examples, say if you actually want to show some tailored content to the users that are coming on mobile, because of whatever reason, then it might not be possible with this configuration, right? Because HTML content is same. In such cases, maybe dynamic serving can be a good option, because here, since you are having two different HTML content versions, you can customize your content little bit for the user segments that are coming on website, that are coming on desktop website and mobile websites. But at the same time, since we have two versions of content, which we call content forking, they need to be in sync. So say if you go ahead and change something on your desktop website, then it is important to make the similar change on your mobile website also, so that you can provide a consistent user experience across platforms. So that is something you need to be aware of if you choose to have dynamic serving configuration. And the third is separate sites. So here again, since we are having completely different websites for for desktop and mobile, we can have very customized user experience on both the platforms. So suppose if you know that people coming on mobile are relatively younger than coming on desktop, and you want to show it in different version of content, then this configuration can suit such strategy well. But at the same time, it has very high maintenance cost, because it is like you are maintaining completely two different websites. So there is high maintenance cost involved, and then redirects is something you need to be very careful about, because when user comes from mobile, and you need to have all the web pages that you have on desktop version corresponding with the mobile version. We'll talk more about it later. And the third point to note is about the content forking. So it's the same as we talked in the dynamic serving as well, like having two versions of contents and making them synchronized. So now we know these are the three configurations available, and how will you choose one configuration? So as always, users come first. So we would say that please think from the user's perspective, like when they visit your website on mobile, how should it look like, and think from their needs. Then comes the internal capabilities. I mean, how many resources you have, what exactly, what are your business strategies. Because if you are, suppose, choosing to have separate URLs, but you don't have those many resources to have that kind of maintenance, then it may be kind of, you might need to balance this off. That is what I mean by internal capabilities. And then business strategies. Whatever configuration you choose, it should be in line with the configuration you choose. Now, important point here is we support all three configurations, but since responsive web design has a lot of advantages, Google recommends it. But at the same time, it is also important to note that choosing any of the configurations does not affect your rankings. So it is not like if you are choosing responsive web design, your site will rank higher, and just with the configuration, right? So we treat all of them equally. We support all of them. So please use what is best for you and your users. And last point to note is, please add signals to help Googlebot understand your configuration. So we'll talk about this also in the coming section. So now we have covered why mobile-friendly websites are important, how to create one, what are the configurations available. Now we can move to like some of the best practices. Now as a user, what do you think? What are some of the characteristics a good mobile website should have?
Quick loading.
Yeah, speed is one. Any other?
Content is optimized for us.
Yeah, it should be
It
optimized.
should be easy to, like, because it's
Yes, yes, it should be readable.
Navigation.
Side of the content.
And whatever buttons and stuff that one uses should be easy to like
Exactly.
thumb friendly.
It should be touch friendly.
So redirecting.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think you have got almost all of them. So we'll just go through the main best practices quickly. So first is configuring viewport. Now what viewport does is it allows to fit your content according to the screen size. So if you see the example here, the image on the left is very much, actually content on the left is very much cluttered. Like there are a lot of problems with this image. So there are tabs which are at the top and they are not even visible. And image is relatively lot bigger than the content font size. So this, in this case, viewport is not set properly. But if you see the next image where viewport is set properly, then all the links are properly visible and they are easy to touch, as some of you mentioned. And everything looks like proportional, right? So that is why setting a viewport is very important, especially for a mobile-friendly website. So please include a meta viewport in the head of the document as shown here. So you just have name as viewport and you then give the device fit, so that it will set your viewport properly.
This is usually automatically done by your theme
Website.
that you use, right?
Like if you're using a WordPress based website.
Yeah.
In such cases, that is there, but if you are creating everything from scratch, then it is 1.2. The next point is specifically for dynamic serving websites. So please add a vary HTTP header in for dynamic serving websites. What it does is when you add vary user agent, it gives indication that okay, there is an alternate version for my website available. So when Googlebot comes, suppose a web crawler has come and crawling your website, and when it sees this tag, vary user agent, then it knows that okay, alternate version of this website also is available, and it crawls the both, so that both of them are rendered properly according to whichever user agent comes in, a mobile or a desktop, right? Now the next is about adding bidirectional annotations if you are using separate sites configuration. So what I mean is really simple. So say if you see here on the desktop website nationalworldwide.com, you can just add link rel equal to alternate and give the URL of your alternate website. So what it does is it tells that okay, I am a canonical version and my alternate version is here. And at this similar fashion, on your mobile site, you can add rel equal to canonical and the URL of your canonical version. Then it tells that okay, I am an alternate version and my canonical version is here, so that both are properly identified. Okay. Now the next part is about redirect. So when we are having two different URLs for web version, for desktop version and mobile version, then it is very important that all the pages that you have in your desktop version should have their corresponding pages on mobile. Otherwise, what will happen is, so in this case, there will be a 404 error for pages like bar, which is a very bad user experience. Now it can also happen that sometimes you are in the process of making your mobile website, so all the pages are not yet available in the mobile version. Then it is not a good practice to redirect everything to home page. Because what happens is not everybody is as tech savvy as us. So if they are looking for a particular content and you are redirecting them to the home page, then they can't directly find that content, they get confused and just leave the site. So in such cases, it is advisable to actually redirect them to the desktop version itself, so that at least they can find the content they were looking for. And then this is like the ideal scenario when you have kind of one-on-one mapping with your desktop web pages and the mobile web pages, right? So redirects are very important when you are using separate URLs configuration. Now next part is about the plugins. So some plugins like Flash or Java servlets are no more supported. So please avoid using such plugins because it gives a very bad user experience. Because imagine like if you are having a blog or website about suppose hiking, then user will come to the page expecting that okay, I'll see some snow-clad mountains in the video, and all he'll see is this black screen. So it will be a really bad user experience. And then another point to note is adding summaries or transcripts below the videos so that it can tell what the video is about. So in case because of some technical errors, if the video doesn't play, then also user at least knows, okay, this video was about this.
So, like, is it better to have like a full transcript, or I mean, is that what you say? That
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you can have full transcript also, or you can have a small summary of which will explain what the contents of the video basically. So this was about the plugins. Now optimizing for fingers. Now, if we have lot of content, lot of links cluttered, then on a mobile screen it becomes very difficult, especially for on the touch screen. It becomes very difficult for user to navigate to the exact point he wants to go. So here you can see the clear difference. Like on the left, there are so many links that if you click something, then it will go to something else, and it becomes really annoying. We all know it as users, right? So that's why have proper space between the links so that it becomes easy for user to navigate. And yeah, these are some like guidelines. So average finger pad is around 10 millimeters. So if the main headings or main important links on your page can have around 7 millimeter good width or height for them.
10 millimeter.
And
Was it 10 millimeter, the earlier one?
yeah, 10 millimeter is the finger size, actual size. So considering that, the important links having them separated by 7 millimeter should be good enough to distinctly touch them.
Okay.
And similarly for the little smaller ones, like not smaller actually, less important ones, you can have it like 5 millimeter. So these are just guidelines, and it might you might need to customize a bit.
Go back to the previous
Yeah,
slide.
yeah, sure. This is for the less important links like the footnotes or everything. For those, even 5 millimeter also works. Okay. Should we move? The next is about using appropriate base font size. Now you might think that okay, these are very small things and why is she talking so much about it? But these small things collectively contribute to a very good user experience, right? So using appropriate base font size is also important. Now say that you have configured your viewport properly, but if your base font size is too small, then your text can't be read properly, even with the viewport set. So it is very important to have a proper base font size. So we recommend around 16 CSS pixels of a base font size, and then you can increase it for your headings and others, and you can just keep it a little on the lower side for footnotes or some small links. Okay. Now, as much as base font is important, line spacing is also important, because if you have covered everything and still your line spacing is very less, then the whole text becomes cluttered. So that also matters in a good user experience. So around default CSS line height of 1.2 em should be good enough. Now when I say 1.2 em, it is like 1.2 into whatever base font you use. So if it is 16, then 1.2 into 16 will be your default line spacing. Now moving on, please do not block resources. This is really important, because if you are blocking the resources like images or others to be crawled by crawler, then we can't understand, like Googlebot can't understand the structure of your website, and so it can't render it properly. So make sure that if your robot.txt or other files, please check if they are not blocking any of the resources. And Last point is treat Googlebot or any other bot as just a normal user and not specific user agent. Because Google should see the site just as you would like to show it to any user, right? So these are some of the guidelines. Now coming to the speed, I think we have talked enough about it, but what do you think, like if you come to a website, you are opening it, how long will you wait for it to load? Yeah, exactly. So we are now pretty impatient, but yes, 53% of the people abandon a website if it takes more than just 3 seconds to load. So I think this number is good enough to show how critical having good speed is, right? But at the same time, what we also observe is like 75% of the sites take more than 10 seconds to load. So it is very important to change it and have more and more users engage with your site with the fast loading. It's not like this is the only factor that will matter, but yes, this is one of the important factors, especially for mobile. So if you have not done already, then you can use this tool g.co/testmysite. So it will show you if your how much time it takes for your site to load, and if it is okay to have or if it is not good, and just a range of.
So this is Test My Site, but Google has its own site for page test, right? This
is Google.only.
Page speed test is not Google.
Google Insight.
Page speed insights.
Right?
Yeah.
That is. So why are the? So if I go to this one, it always gives me like a decent speed or something. But if I go to page speed test, it always tells me that my site speed slow and it comes in average.
That doesn't like you. Okay. Yeah. So, one, Philippi, would you have any insight into like how these differentiate? They're saying, okay, we get different score here, we get different score there.
I think the broader piece of advice I would say about how to interpret a lot of these tools is there is some degree of subjectivity in all of them. And many of these represent recommendations and advice. We are providing these as guides to you, recognizing that you also have choices you're making as to, from our perspective or from how a user might see it, these are the things that are affecting it. There are page speed insights in particular represents how Google and Googlebot might actually be experiencing the page, which could have an impact in terms of sort of just Google's own interpretation of it, and therefore the way we might or might not see it in terms of ranking. Some other tools are actually testing it based from the user perspective, and theoretically we're looking for both of them to be the same, but in some cases there may be user situations that we can't emulate. Bad network conditions, old devices, browser conditions, and so on. So for all of those, when you see discrepancies in particular, I would suggest just focus on the things that you think can actually get you the biggest advantage. And if you find that you're basically broadly the scores might differ, but what they're recommending is the same, then focus on that. If what one is recommending is something you're thinking that's not really gonna make a difference, then you probably don't need to prioritize it. None of these tools are basically our way of saying, hey, you need to get a 100% score on these, because they're ultimately that's not always possible, and that's not how we look at the web either, right? They're just recommendations for if you really have the time and resources and intent on doing so. These are things you could do now to make it better.
I have a question. When I test my website through Google Insights, Google Page Speed Insight, I get the result like FCP and DCL. So if FCP is like 3.2 second and DCL is like 2.4 second, when I club it, it is coming like 5.5 second, 5.6 second. So in this FCP and DCL, on which I should work to reduce the page speed? And second, what does this actually stands for, the FCP and the DCL?
Yeah, I was going to ask you the same because the acronyms.
It's the first byte.
First byte. Okay, it's like delivery to first byte versus render. Most of the time, in my experience in web development, it's usually not the delivery of the content to the browser. That is, yeah, it's certainly in areas where the network conditions are terrible. That is an impact, particularly if you have very large assets or if you have large media files. Text basically compresses very well, and if you're basically have a user experience that is generated mostly by HTML5 commands and CSS, you might have faster delivery to the browser than if you just have a lot of media files that you're loading. But once that's sort of stabilized, the fact that the files are delivered, the rendering on the browser can often take a huge amount of time, because depending on how much you're asking the browser to process could impact just how long it takes for a user to actually see a useful interaction. On top of that, depending on where and how you load your ad network units could further affect the ability of a user to interact. And on top of that, if you have to put in interstitials of some sort, notifications, alerts, GDPR, cookie consents, even more so. And if on top of that you do something like, these delightful pop-up interstitials that takes like, please click on me now before I can let you do anything on that, which we all love, then, so I would tend to focus on that user experience first, if only because that's so much in your control. Yeah. Whereas the stuff that gets to the browser, once you've minified your assets, once you've obfuscated and compressed your JavaScript, once you've delivered all your assets in compressed zipped format, once you've done all that and optimized that, that's code, that the other stuff is a lot more difficult to do.
Okay. Last section of this presentation, accelerated mobile pages. How many of you have already used it? Tried. Okay. So we'll quickly have a look at what AMP is, and AMP this project actually started with the goal of having web pages that are rich in content but load instantly anywhere on any platforms. So this is like an open source project, and it aims to load web pages along with ads and analytics really fast. So if you want to know more about it, then there is a version of http://amp. So there you can find more information about how this project started and other information. So we'll quickly go. So this is some of the statistics that actually AMP is pretty new, right? Not everyone is using it right now, but still it is catching up fast. And if we see, over 4 billion AMP pages have been published till now, and over 25 million domains are creating AMP pages. So this is getting widely accepted, and because of its advantages over especially speed, right? And now if we see, there are 3 core components of AMP: AMP HTML, JS, and cache. Now AMP HTML is nothing but your normal HTML with some customized tags which have AMP, which are AMP specific. So this is like a HTML with some restrictions, so that your performance is better, the performance of your site is better. Then AMP.js, it is a library which ensures fast rendering of your website. So this library implements all the AMP's best performance practices, and it manages resource loading and ensures that your site renders fast. And then last is AMP cache. So the Google AMP cache can be used to serve cached AMP pages. So it just has those pages in cache, and then when they are asked again, then it renders them fast. So these are the 3 core components, and more information about these components is available. Is available in g.pro/AMP. So you can read more about those components. So just to summarize, AMP is not like a very new or completely different technology. It is just a modified version of what technologies you already use, like HTML and JS, right? So this is some statistics about overall AMP pages. So they take less than 1 second to load. The medium load time is less than 1 second. they are 4 times faster and they consume 10 times less data. So it is like having all benefits in one at one place, right? Using less data at the same time, giving more speed.
So how do we enable it? Can be done on the current website?
Yeah, it can be done on current websites, and I think WordPress and these
So yeah, you can have it developed as just like how you have a website developed, right? So this is a parallel version to your original website, right? Just like you may have RSS feeds on your websites, right? It is just like that, so you can have it like that. There are also plugins available, for example, that can turn your website into an AMP website automatically. So that can also happen. So also if you, develop a system that can be automated, you don't have to do it for every post that you make, for example.
Do a post and then it automatically.
It's into the template. It's in the design of your website. And
Preference if you have an AMP site.
okay, meaning is AMP a ranking signal?
No, not for ranking,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, for
Search.
ranking.
Is it one of those 200 parameters that count in search?
It should be.
Doesn't that mean it's a ranking signal?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, because speed. Okay, so
Speed.
AMP by itself is not a ranking signal. Meaning, okay, since you have AMP, okay, we are going to rank you higher. No, but its implications are that okay, your websites are very, very fast. Okay. Now, if there is another website which is faster than AMP, maybe, right? Then what? We would still rank that website because that is faster, that has relevant content, things like that. But so, yes, it speeds up your load time.
User experience also.
Yes, and then, it gives good user experience, so yes.
Is AMP a replacement to your current website or is it an
Good
add-on
question.
version?
Good question. Is it a replacement or it's an addition, right? So as I said, in general, it is a parallel version to your original website. Just like how you have RSS feeds, it's a parallel website that you're running, right? So, however, if you really like AMP, in love with it, then you can have AMP only website as well. One of the conditions here is that for AMP website, you must have a corresponding canonical page. Okay, that is one of the guidelines we'll have to remember. We have to have one corresponding canonical page for any given AMP page. So now this is usually the HTML version of your site, which is the canonical, and this is the alternate. However, if you would like to have AMP only website, then what you can do is put the canonical tag and refer that page itself as canonical, right? So you say, okay, I'm an AMP website and my canonical is myself. Okay, so then Google would know, okay, there is only this AMP only website, there is no other version of the website. Okay, that would be clear to Google.
Any example of a website which is AMP only?
Any example? We do?
Yeah, the AMP website itself.
AMP website itself?
Yeah, obviously. Alibaba is AMP only?
AliExpress. Yeah, so there could be many more. Yeah, you would definitely like to go to that short link geo/amp and check out we also have case studies and things like that. Great, thank you.
Are those, will they help us learn about the trade-offs? Like, you told us all about the benefits, but are there some trade-offs in doing this?
Okay, you told us about the benefits. You're trying to sell this to us. Are there any trade-offs? Yeah. Yes, there are trade-offs. Meaning, as Himani already mentioned, HTML and JavaScript. We're using HTML and JavaScript, the same technology, but in a restrictive manner. Okay, so you may not be able to do everything, every single thing that you are able to do with the normal JavaScript and HTML, right? Because if you have to gain speed, then you will have to like compromise on some other things. However, what we have seen is these AMP websites, they are relevant for most of the types of websites. Many. So without losing much, they have a lot to gain. That is why you see those numbers, right? 25 million domains or whatever, right? So the 4 billion pages have been created, and that is why like AliExpress is a big website. Okay, and they are using AMP, and a lot of websites are using AMP because the trade-offs are like not that significant. Okay, but yes, there are trade-offs. There may be some analytics software that may not be supported. There may be some ad networks that may still not be supported, right? Those things are there. So if it works for you right now, great. If not, we are trying to make it work for you, right? So yeah.
should be content heavy. A page should be content heavy to convert it into AMP, a content heavy page. Something like that. No, I don't think I said it, but if I have said it, then that is not what I meant. Okay. So I want to ask, it should be textual content or video images, both content?
AMP supports all these types, right? It supports images, it supports videos, it supports content, it supports e-commerce types of websites.
So the design would not be affected?
Design would not be affected. It depends. Meaning, what kind of design you currently have, how are you using JavaScript and CSS currently on your pages, right? So it totally depends. If you're heavily relying on JavaScript, some complicated JavaScript functions and calls and these things, then it may get affected, right? Because as we have seen, we have a JavaScript library that we have, and it may not be able to provide you all the functionality that like JavaScript has to provide you, right? So it depends, but generally you should be able to have like decent functional web pages for different types of content, be it a blog, be it a news website, be it a e-commerce website, be it a image gallery and things like that. All these things are perfectly, they work well, yes. So your current template, yes, you may not be able to have exactly the same all functions, maybe, yeah, but yeah, I mean, without much loss, you should be able to have an AMP version. Yeah.
Yeah, coming to the end. So this is a table which summarizes what is required if you want to have your article in some specific carousel. So say if you want to have your article in the top stories carousel, then you must have a structured data of one of the following, like article, news article or something like that. Also, if you want to have it in other stars or rich snippets, then also structured data is required. But when we talk about general Google search results, then if you have structured data, then it is good. I think it was also mentioned by Ashish that it is good. It will give more relevant content to the user before it goes into the website. But it is not an absolute necessary. I mean, it is recommended, but not necessary. So yeah, this is one link, g.co/AMP test. So if you have some AMP pages, then you can use this link to check if those pages are valid or not.
Possible that an entire website is not AMP but specific pages are?
I think yes. Yes. Only some of the pages can be AMP. And yeah, now just to summarize everything, these are some of the resources that I have used in all the slides. So g.co/mobile friendly was to test mobile friendliness of your website. AMPproject.org has all the information related to AMP. Like Cyril mentioned, we have case studies and details about HTML and customized AMP HTML tags and other things. g.co/AMP test is to see if your AMP page is valid or not. And g.co/test my site, it is for your speed test. Okay. That was it from my side. I hope this session was helpful and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Himani. Yeah, now we have Akesh who will talk about AdSense policies. So we are deviating a little bit from the organic search, talking about AdSense policies. So over to Akesh.
In 30 minutes, I'll be using more word publisher and less webmaster. Do not get confused. Web publishers are those webmasters who use AdSense. So in our universe, we name them as web publishers. Just a question, how many of you have AdSense account?
We have, but don't use it.
Okay, don't use it. Okay. Then this session may be like motivate you to use more. So hi, I'm Akesh Khandelwal. I work in publisher policy team, and this is my agenda for next 30 minutes. So first, as I've said, I am in publisher policy, and it comes under trust and safety. So what does publisher policy team does? It is a team which creates policies, enforces them in such a way so that we make AdSense excel. At the same time, we try to find out the publishers who have spammy behavior and take action upon them. Now we work for a digital advertising ecosystem, and who all comes under this ecosystem is users, publishers and advertisers. And we are not biased towards anyone, though we work for publisher, but it is not that the policies which we create is biased towards, let's suppose, publishers or advertisers, nothing like that. We give each and every aspect of this ecosystem equal terms, and we aim to make them happy in this whenever they are working in this ecosystem. And since I told that my team is publisher policy, which is part of trust and safety, it comprises of two words. First, trust. Second, safety. What is trust? Trust is what, as you can see in this slide, it is like both the partners have trust on are trusting each other that okay, they'll work together and they'll be able to complete this expedition. Similarly, we want our users, advertisers and publishers to trust us that whatever policies we are enforcing, we are making for their success and their growth. And then comes the safety. What does safety mean? Safety is when we want user to feel that okay, they are safe online. Advertisers should feel that whatever money they are investing is valued or is used in proper terms, and wherever their ads are coming, it's coming on the proper side. And publishers should feel that okay, they have been provided equal or a level playing field by AdSense, and whatever ads are coming on them is relevant and is the most valued ad which can be shown at that particular point of time. With this is the mission statement of Google Trust and Safety, which is to keep our ad network safe for users, publishers and advertisers. And yes, to work for that mission statement, we have very high standards. Keeping those high standards in mind, we create policies which are quite stringent or which are quite strict, and these policies help us to be selective. Just a question, like last year, of all the publishers who applied for AdSense, how many got selected? Any idea? Any guess? Or should I repeat question? Like some numbers, like she said 50%. Okay, since I have to rush through it, it's 12%. So 88% of the publishers who apply for AdSense are not selected to monetize through AdSense. This is how selective we are. And why we are so selective? Because we don't want even a single bad publishers to enter our site, enter our AdSense ecosystem. Because whenever a bad publisher enters our ecosystem, it does not only harm user, but also at the same time publishers and advertisers, both these also. Because advertisers' ad will not be shown on the relevant site, and at the same time good publishers like you will not be getting equal money which you should have been getting. And this is the team. This is just one of the area team. This is a North America team which is publisher policy. And why I'm showing this particular picture over here is because sometimes some of you may have got a canned response from her or an automated response that okay, like you may have understood that whenever I try to request or appeal to AdSense, we get a automated response. It is yes, that response is automated, but it is not that only bots or algorithm is working. There is a team who is working, and whatever decisions are being taken, they are in a very transparent way and taken with mind each and every aspect of that ecosystem into account. All this was about my team. Now I'll just make you go through some of the basics of AdSense. First is do not click on your own ads. It sounds funny that okay, will some publisher will click on his own ad, but we have seen it. Like publisher thinks that okay, let's suppose if I click on my own ad, or I'll not click. Maybe I'll ask my friends or families to click on my ad so that I can get revenue. We have our algorithms which filter these particular types of clicks, and no publisher get revenue for these. Even not friends and families. Sometimes it happens unintentionally also. Let's suppose a publisher goes to a third party company which promises them that okay, they'll bring more number of visitors to their site. Whenever you go to any third party, make sure whatever visitors they are bringing to your site is not a bot traffic or is not a bot which are coming and clicking on your sites. Because again, I'll say we have codes or algorithms working, and whenever we see that okay, particular account has large number of traffic coming from bots, then in that case your account may get flagged, and worst case it may get suspended. While creating a site, as an AdSense perspective, always think like a user. You should think that okay, if I myself visit my site, what type of site I want. Make it more content friendly. Put ads wherever it is relevant. Try to engage with users through social media, like maybe emails, ratings, recommendations, etc. Your aim should be to make a casual visitor who came for the first time to your site into a loyal user. And since you will have more such number of users, you will end up getting more number of more number of clicks and more revenue. Whatever content you are monetizing, keep it family safe and legal. Keep only that content on your site which you want your parents or your children to see. If any
Question. So, this whole thing about if you wouldn't want a child
Yeah.
or parent seeing it, but not all websites are meant for children.
Yes.
And why shouldn't my parents see something? So I'll give you an example. So I have a grouse with AdSense that AdSense doesn't seem to differentiate between sexuality and porn, for instance. So if we publish in the space of women, and if we publish about women's sexual health, for instance.
I'm not running a child specific site.
Yes.
So why?
So I guess the question is that why do all websites need to be family friendly?
Yeah.
Yes. So since I told in the ecosystem, it is not only users. What you are creating is for users. We have advertisers also. And when no advertiser or a big advertiser wants their ad to be, if they want, they also have an option to select that. Okay, let's suppose I want my ads to be on that particular type of site. But let's suppose a advertiser is there and he does not, major of the advertisers what we have got is does not want their ads to be sites which are not family safe, because of which we have created these policies, as I have said, keeping in mind users, publishers and advertisers. So there is another aspect which is advertisers. It is not only users.
Their ads need not appear on the site, right?
Yeah.
Why should the content be flagged?
So if you are monetizing on AdSense, then in that case only content will be flagged, because as per policy you are not allowed to monetize. See, there is not we have a lot of gamut of advertisers, and it is not that all will select that okay, I don't want to be on that particular site. By default we want that okay, whatever content is not family safe, advertisers ad will not be shown on those particular sites. Yeah, as told that we in AdSense policies are quite stringent, and this is why to make the ecosystem more healthy, we have created such policies. Next is you should always try to maximize your content and not ads. Generally this does not happen, but many of the suspicious publishers, what they do is okay, a small content and all surrounded by ad. You should not do it, because if you are doing it, then again your content can get flagged, your page can get flagged.
Can we flag a site which is doing it?
Sorry?
Can we go and complain about
Yes.
the site?
Yes. So whenever if you see that okay, I am not doing it, my competitor is doing it and no action has been taken, maybe because right now it does not come under our scrutiny. But if you find any such site, do report it on AdSense forum. Because some publishers do come to us I am not doing it, but my publisher is doing it and he is earning money. That particular person is earning money, I am not doing it because I am adhering to a policies. In that case, do report to us. Avoid deceptive layouts. Do not place your ads in such a way which trick users. Maybe we have seen that some of the publishers place it near the navigation button, next button, or they say that okay, click below to download that a particular thing, and what is below is the ad. So if publisher does not know that of the users are coming, or let's suppose on these, so far so good. So these were some of the basics. Now I'll go through in brief all the policies which we have seen. There are a lot more policies. These are the policies which we see are majorly violated by the publishers. First is ads placed on a content which is dynamic in nature. Now what is dynamic content? Dynamic content is a content on which publishers do not have complete say. Let's suppose on your page you have a chat window or a messaging window, and users keep on messaging or interacting with each other. In those types of pages, you will not have total control what type of content right now is present on my site or on your page. In those particular types of page, you should not monetize. A news site on which content keep on refreshing maybe 30 minutes on an hour, that is not a dynamic content, because their publisher has a say. It is publisher who is reporting or who is publishing that particular content. So dynamic content is only a page in which chatting window or a quite frequent comment section is happening. If normal comments it's okay, but if comment section is such that it refreshes every minute, then in that case that is a dynamic content. In this case, the page is okay, but they have a live chatting video in which the content is changing every minute, and then they have an ad placed above it. This is a violation. Yes, okay, she went. So sexual content. Google does not allow its publisher to monetize the content which is sexually suggestive, adult in nature. Like if you see this particular example, the one which is on the top and the left hand side is okay. But if you see the right image, it is sexually suggestive. Similarly, the left, in the bottom example, the left one is okay, but the one which is on the right hand side is sexually suggestive. Such types of content is not allowed to monetize if it is a natural, if it is a normal health tips or an article which does not have just, which have just a normal image, and in that case, we do not take action on such sites or such pages. If somehow it had been taken to you, do reply, appeal back to us, and your page will again be allowed to monetize.
Question.
Yeah.
So, is it primarily a function of images?
I'll come. Just 2 more slides and I'll come to you. So it is not just content or images, it is text also. Text in a sense, if it contains erotic stories, adult jokes or a profane language, then in that case it is explicit content, text or content, otherwise it is not. Image, content covered, no. Apart from that, even in your recommendation section or in the comment section, you are not doing anything, but your users who are commenting on that particular page are using profane language. Then in that case, again your page may get flagged. So Google is quite serious or like stringent about this particular policy. So on a page which you are monetizing, neither image nor content nor recommendation section nor comments should have sexual content or explicit content. Now you can ask.
So I'm just trying to understand what does explicit content mean, because I'll give you an example, okay? So you know the recent show on Netflix, Lust Stories?
Yes.
So we ran a review of that, which got flagged.
Okay, then I suppose in that, were there any images of those
No,
of Netflix?
screenshot of a woman.
Only Netflix.
Yeah.
Only the stories cover.
Yeah.
And the content was nowhere profane language was used.
No.
Then
But you might have used words like lust, sex.
Yeah, sex, for
See,
example.
one
You are reviewing lust stories.
I mean, like,
You
I
might
cannot
have used those
possibly
words.
review lust
Yeah.
stories without
So see,
using
this
the
is
word
a
sex.
This is a particular case,
Yeah.
but
No,
gender-
so of late we are having and I'm noticing that in the last 2 months, the number of such flagging has increased for, essentially things like this, reviews of movies which are, PG-13 and above or 18 and above movies. How could I possibly review them without using the word sex?
yeah. So I doubt just like either the sex word was used quite frequently.
Okay.
If 2 or 3 times it is, then it is okay. And what you said, sex or like love and lust, these are okay. But so see, it is like we have. No, we have that logics or algorithms in place which can find out what is the frequency of such types of words. Sex. Yes, of course. When like it may happen that false positives do take place. If any such happen, then in that case, do get back to us. Because sometimes because it is an algorithm which is working. So if you'll get back to us, then a person will review it, and if he or she found that okay, no, it is on the violating side, then in that case, you are maybe like the action remains same. If it is not, then in that case, you may allow it again to monetize.
It might also depend on the person who's reviewing it, right? Does he have?
So yes, we have.
Yeah, also what happens when this thing gets flagged? Only for that particular page, the ad
I'll come to
goes-
that.
Okay.
This is also covered. Next is this I have covered previously, so I'll not repeat it. Just I'll say that do not try to trick users in such a way which may lead to accidental clicks. Like for this example, you can see that the left layout is okay because there a clear dividing is there between what is and what is content. But in the right hand side, there's no clear cut dividing and a user may get deceived. Thus, these types of pages gets flagged. This again I'll say that I have repeated, so never always focus on content and not on ads. And not only content, sometimes intentionally or unintentionally publisher end up monetizing pages which are 404. Like ad code was present, but like I forgot, okay, now the page is down, but ad is still coming. Then in that case, this is a violation. Similarly, a login page in which nothing, just a username, password, and a ad is present. So there is no value for advertiser because user will come, he'll enter username, password, and he'll go. So what is the use of advertiser paying for placing his ad on such type of page? Unnatural attention. Whenever you make sure that whenever a user comes to your site, he should read a content and if a relevant ad is present, and if he wants to click on that particular ad, he should click it in a natural or organic way. Sometimes what we have seen publisher do is like they'll make the ad like surrounded by neon colors, flashy borders, or arrows pointing it towards it. Or just a simple case, sticky ad. You just scroll the page, but ad is still same. If you see your site, like any other site which has similar violation but no action is being taken, do report to us. This is also one of the things which is taken seriously by Google. Mislabeling. Mislabeling is a label. Label is a thing which you put above ads. Like let's suppose sponsored links, advertisements, ads by Google. Sometimes again user do is like they'll put links like resources. So in that case, user may think that okay, the below one is not a content but an ad, not an ad but a content, and he may end up clicking. Like in this example, there are many violations. I'll just say you can say that the main one says like the gap between the ad and content is less. Over here, if you see, image and text are quite close. Similarly, over there, if you see, it is like mentioned search, and below that ad is present. So it is mislabeling because your publisher is not mentioning what is there. Like there is nothing like advertisement or sponsored links. What is there is just a search. A user may do a search, and he may think that okay, below one is in content, and then he may end up clicking on it. Copyrighted material, easy, like okay, when do not put copyrighted content in your site. Sometimes publisher have doubt that okay, I created some content, other one copied it. Should any action be taken against me? Because like others have copied and many others are copying from my content. We have our system in place which is able to find out who is a source, who created content and who has copied it. So do not worry about it. If the content is yours, we'll not take action against it. You publisher do comes to us with this question. Violent content. Now what is violent content? Content which has like freaky accident videos or a gory image. So a news site just reporting an accident is not a violent content. If a news site or a publisher is reporting that okay, he's showing dead bodies, a person completely injured, blood everywhere, an image or a content which creates which is gory in nature, that type of content is not allowed to monetize. These were some of the policies which we have seen mostly violated by the publishers. Now I'll quickly make you go through the recent updates which were taken in the last 5-6 months. First is valuable inventory. Earlier the restriction was that publisher can place only 3 ads per page. This restriction has been removed. You can place as many ads you want on your page, only keeping in mind that it should not violate more ads and content policy, or your content should always be more than your ads. Misrepresentative content. You should never try to misrepresent or misstate your identity. Just to give you an example, what is misrepresentative is sometimes some people get a call that okay, we are calling from so and so bank and we need your account details. We know that that is not a bank, that is not a person who is calling from bank. He is someone who is trying to get your information. Similarly, a publisher should not try to misrepresent himself. And if we found out that let's suppose a publisher is actually from India, but he is saying that his site says that he is from US, this is a misrepresentation. He is from India, but he is saying to the publisher, to the user, that he is from US or maybe some other country. Then in that case, we may get flagged. You may get flagged. Sorry. Expanded category blocking. By default, publishers we give some categories by which publishers can select which types of ad they want. There is one category, sensitive. By default, none of the publishers is opted in for that particular category. If you want such types of ads to be shown in your website, then you have to opt in for sensitive categories. Otherwise, for other categories, which are around 497 as of now, but you will be by default selected. If you don't want one particular type of ad, let's suppose you own a designing site, and there is Amazon ad coming on your site, then in that case you will not want it, because you want users to come on your site and buy from your site, not go to Amazon and click and get your products or the similar products from there. So in such types of cases, you can select that okay, I don't want like ads from e-coms. You can go and do it in your AdSense portal. Dangerous derogatory content which promotes hate speech against an organization or a person or a group, these types of contents are not allowed to be monetized. This is another update which we took based on the feedback which we got from publishers. Now the publishers are allowed to monetize 300 cross 250 mobile ad which on their mobile pages. This ad is, sometimes what happens is whenever you place this ad and they'll put another ad below it, such that at any point of time on a viewable screen, the content is less than 50%. Just make sure whenever you are placing such type of ad, the content should be more than 50% on a viewable screen. So as soon as I open your site, if an ad is present, then it's okay, but below that the content should also be present.
Do you have a screenshot of
I don't have right now.
This is for the mobile or this is for the
Mobile. This is for mobile. Maybe like if you particular page got action, so I can remove that particular violation from other pages or maybe stop monetizing those particular pages. So be assured, if it is site level action, then in that case it is like maybe large number of pages have similar violations, or your violation is a egregious type, which is like maybe your site is monetizing on adult content, copyrighted content, or such cases. If it is a normal violation, then in major cases we take page level action only. These were some of the like policies and the updates. Now I'll just quickly go through the resources which are available. Like we have AdSense forum, center, FAQs, blog pages, and recently we added the plot. Okay, sorry, you want to take pictures? Sorry. Actually, we are short of time. That's why I'm rushing through. And don't want to eat your snacks or tea break. Should I move? We also have added Policy Center. This is available on your AdSense portal. This has a detailed explanation of each and every policy with examples, so that if you have mind, if you are confused with particular policy, you can go to Policy Center and understand.
Is there any way to check? Okay, I don't have AdSense, but if somebody had, then is there a
What all policies are there?
What all policies have I?
Yes. So this is the Policy Center is especially for the AdSense portal. These are the ones which are available for each and every user. So if you want to understand like what all policies are there. This is not like we have stopped. There are many more videos, blogs, and resources which will be coming in future. Just one more minute. Why we are doing all this is because we care about brand a lot. It is not only Google brand, it is the advertisers as well as publisher and brand, which we care about, and because of these we create such policies and we enforce such stringent policies. So in the end, I'll say that always whenever action of you are monetizing on AdSense, do keep in mind that we are not biased towards an advertiser, publisher, or user. It's our goal to keep each and every person in that ecosystem happy, and whatever decision is being taken, sometimes it may be false positives, do get back to us, and if it is a false positive, we'll take action again. We'll take our recourse of action on it. That's it from my side. Thank you. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now or maybe in the Q&A section.
Thank you.
Quality guidelines and things like that. So we have some statements, some recommendations that we make. And then on the other hand, we also have a lot of these things that we hear from the community, from the industry, from other SEOs, from other influencers and things like that. Yes? Yeah? So we have gathered a bunch of statements in these slides. Some of these statements are true and some of them are not. Okay? Let us see how many of them you get right. And after that, we will take a quick look at what are some of the important things that you need to keep in mind while hiring an SEO, right? So we'll take a quick look at that as well, and then we will start the Q&A, okay? And during this session, while we are going through the facts and the myths, if you have any related questions, please feel free to ask, okay? So this is your time, okay? So let us begin. First of all, descriptive page titles and meta descriptions are important for better search ranking.
Yes. True.
All of you?
Yes.
Is there somebody that doesn't agree? They are important?
Yes.
Yes, we have seen in the SEO session, right? Yes, they are pretty much important that you create unique and descriptive titles and things like that. Now what if you created great titles, great descriptions, great this, great that, you did all types of SEO that you could do, however your content is not great? Then are your chances better or worse? Worse? Why do you think content is king when it comes to ranking?
Yes.
How many of you think yes? All of you? Yeah. Is there anybody who thinks no? I think we have a comment.
Entirely convinced.
Not entirely convinced. Okay, why not?
So I do feel like, there are times when I see, I think it's similar to what they were saying in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Very large websites, typically like, say Times of India, and the content isn't really answering anything, or even India Times and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The content isn't really very good or answering stuff very well, but it's ranking.
Okay,
He gave
so
me a very convincing
Answer for that.
yes.
yeah, so I think, yeah. The comment is basically, okay, there are many big websites and then they are ranking while they don't provide content, right?
I can't say they don't provide content. That particular page doesn't seem to answer a query very well.
Okay.
So like the recipe example that she was talking
Yeah,
of, it
so-
would be like a very cookie cutter recipe, and somebody else has done a fantastic job of detailing it out and step by step.
Okay. Yeah.
And this-
So I think if you're talking about that particular case, then I think, yeah.
I'm just an example, but
Yeah, I know. So specifically with that particular case, the thing was what we have seen is you want to add something?
Yeah, so basically I compared like a recipe which I had written and a recipe on again Times of India. So the question was, I was searching for kosha mangsho. So I searched for kosha mangsho recipe, and this Times of India had a headline kosha mangsho recipe and a little 2-line description and then a recipe template with all the structured data. Whereas my post had a long description about kosha mangsho and all the things that I thought is relevant for people about kosha mangsho, and then obviously what else this site had. But what he said was that if people are searching for a recipe, then I mean my text was something else. जो ऊपर the content था, it was something else. It was not the recipe. So recipe only came much.
But I kind of disagree with that.
Below.
No, I kind of disagree with that a little bit, because it's not always when you add a recipe in your search. I could simply be searching for kosha. I mean, going back to that, I could simply be searching for kosha mangsho. But in that case also, it is very highly likely that Times of India, which just has a recipe, and another website which has a history, Times of India still ranks higher. I'm not searching for kosha mangsho recipe. I'm just searching for kosha mangsho.
Thank you
And it
for.
assumes you want the recipe.
Yeah, it just assumes you want the recipe.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
What if in her page, if she had put the recipe first and then a description about what
Okay. Yes.
later,
Yes.
what would have that credit?
Yeah, so the case here for everybody, the case here was that she has a recipe page, and then that the primary content of this page is a recipe, meaning how to make kosha mangsho, whatever it is.
Whatever, XYZ.
Yeah, XYZ.
You can
Okay.
go to Italy. I mean, let's
Idli,
anything.
yes, okay. So whatever it is, how to make that is the page about. But on that page, they also have a lot of history and description and things like that. There were at least 4 or 5 paragraphs. Yes, 4 or 5 paragraphs before even the recipe starts. Okay? And then we looked at the other pages. They were like very straightforward. You land on the page, you see the recipe. Okay? You land on this page, you don't see the recipe. And yes, and users are scrolling down. Okay, where exactly is the recipe? And then they finally find the recipe. And then after the recipe, then there is some other content as well. Now Google, when Google is trying to understand your content, it may look at your content and may think, okay, since, I mean, how Googlebot is crawling your page, it is going sequential, right? It is from going top to bottom. Then it sees, okay, this is, I mean, what they have placed at the top, probably Google may assume that, okay, that is the most important content on this page. And then when the intent of the user that is looking for this query is to find the recipe, then Google is more likely to present the pages that have the straightforward answer, right? The recipe. If somebody is searching for kosha mangsho recipe, then it may happen so that, okay, Google recognizes, okay, these pages are like about the recipe only. They give the recipe. This page is about, okay, the history of the recipe and this and that and everything. If somebody is searching for history of that recipe, maybe their page may rank, right? If somebody is looking for exactly only the recipe, if that is
few 100 clicks or a few 50 clicks, but it's over millions, right? And if I just tried a couple of with idli and kosha mangsho, which I love, by the way, but what we found is that when you search for kosha mangsho, you get recipe, Because perhaps, and again, this is not a silver bullet, right? But perhaps when users have been searching for kosha mangsho, they have most likely clicked on a recipe, right? But however, if I search very specifically for history of kosha mangsho, the first result is a Wikipedia page, right? So I think that, keep in mind and don't get hung up on some of these things, right? I think that the line here is the most, instead of putting all of your content about it on one page, what's a better way? Because you also don't want the endless scroll problem, right? You don't want users to keep scrolling, especially if they're on their mobile phones, right? So my only advice would be that, it's easy to get very transactional when we are showing you these examples, but remember, we've picked the best example, and it's like looking at one facet of a diamond, right? But that's not the entire story, obviously. So.
Thank you, Sujata. Yeah. So, is that clear somewhat? Yeah? No? Okay. Great. So, yes, content really matters, and we'll try to look at the user's intent. And we may sometimes look at, especially when we are trying to personalize the results, in that context, we may look at some other data, right? Like, okay, what are the preferences of this particular person, right, for these types of queries? Then we may associate some signals with that personalization of the results, okay? So in that context, we may use some signals, and then we may try to understand when a query is coming from this person, how exactly that happens. To give another example, somebody is searching for a jaguar, and this person is known to Google as an animal enthusiast, right? Now, what is jaguar? It could be an animal, it could be a car, right? So when we know, okay, this is an animal enthusiast, he is actually, we know the intent of this user when they are typing jaguar, okay, they are looking for animal related content, not the car. We may serve them the animal related content because we are trying to personalize the results for them, okay? And then if somebody is a mechanic, jaguar mechanic, maybe we will give them a different set of results. So how this personalization works basically. Okay, but content is still king. Do you agree, or kind of? Okay, sort of. Yeah.
No,
So I think those are the subtleties.
Certainly very important, I'm
Yeah.
not saying, but I feel like it's not increasingly, having the best content doesn't necessarily